We used to think cheating meant a hotel room or a knotted necklace found in a glove box. But times have changed. Now your partner could be lying right next to you, scrolling through their phone, and suddenly be emotionally miles away. It is the digital age, a modern Pandora's box where monogamy is quietly being rewritten by algorithms and swipe right culture. We aren't walking out the front door anymore. More often than not, we are simply leaving a hollow shell in our bed. But this is where it gets insidiously messy. We are entering the world of micro-cheating, a digital minefield where lines are incredibly blurry. It might look like a flirtatious reply at 11 p.m. when you are merely tired, or untagging yourself from photos just to keep a secret rendezvous alive in the shadows. Psychologically, this is a dopamine trap. We are starving for connection, and a simple notification provides the easiest, most addictive snack of validation available. It mimics intimacy without the demands of commitment, creating a gray area so foggy it is hard to tell if you are in a real relationship or just bored. Is this harmless digital flirting, or is it betrayal in sheep's clothing? Stick around, because we are about to dissect exactly where that line gets crossed. Think of micro-cheating not as a physical affair, but as a ghost of intimacy that haunts your phone screen. It is the modern gray area where harmless flirting transforms into private, secretive bonding that feels almost identical to a relationship, completely bypassing the necessity of physical touch. Psychologists often describe this phenomenon as emotional sex, that electric, transactional bond where you trade vulnerability and seek high-stakes validation from someone other than your partner, usually under the cover of total secrecy. The danger does not lie in the physical act, but in the intention behind the connection. Flirting is a public wave crashing at the shore, while micro-cheating is a private ocean rising behind closed doors. When you choose to hide your genuine emotional vulnerability from your partner to feed that burning need elsewhere, you are slowly eroding the foundation of trust. You aren't just texting a supportive friend. You are secretly building a second life within your primary relationship. It is the slow drift from platonic to possessive, proving that the most devastating breakups often stem from these invisible, emotional fraternizations, rather than the bedroom. We've all witnessed that sudden Pavlovian twitch where you aggressively close a browser tab the second a partner walks by. It's the classic digital ghost, moving through the home, secreting yourself away in the garage or down the hallway to answer a private text with a hushed whisper. Psychologically, this mimics the thrill of a clandestine affair, where that proximity risk triggers a dopamine spike that offers a secret validation your committed relationship hasn't provided lately. Then there's the subtle erosion of trust, casually double-tapping an old ex's throwback photo and lingering on it, feeding a micro-interaction of intimacy that normalizes betrayal. These low-key emotional affairs chip away at the bond like slow-moving sandpaper, blurring the lines until what was once cheating has moved into the gray area. If you are sensing that shifting dynamic, you need to stick around because we are about to deconstruct these digital landmines and expose exactly where your boundaries are being crossed. We all know that specific 2 a.m. itch where doom scrolling feels less like browsing and more like archaeology, specifically unearthing evidence that you are slipping behind everyone else. This is data mine culture, and it is a psychological trap that masquerades as harmless curiosity. You hunt for the perfect couple online, obsessively dissecting their vacation photos and witty captions, convinced that a single digital timestamp will finally provide the deep validation you seek. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You are trying to find gold in a mine full of lies. Social comparison theory suggests we evaluate ourselves against others, but when you weaponize your own insecurity to stare at strangers, you aren't finding answers, you are just feeding the beast. With every toxic scroll, you trade your self-worth for a fleeting dopamine hit, convinced yourself that someone else's highlight reel is somehow winning the reality war against your messy, beautiful life. We often mistake this for harmless venting, but psychology reveals a much more complex trap here. Every private thought and every buried insecurity you hand to a third party creates a unique currency of intimacy. It's incredibly deceptive because it feels safe, yet it systematically erodes the shared narrative of your relationship. Think of it like building a secret, penthouse suite inside a confidant's mind that your partner is completely locked out of. When you offer your deepest traumas to a new friend while maintaining a curated front for your partner, you are fundamentally fragmenting your emotional self. You aren't just sharing a burden, you are architecting a parallel emotional reality that feels safer and more vital than reality with your spouse. This specific type of targeted self-disclosure creates a profound psychological exclusivity that chemically mimics romantic bonding, often stronger than the actual thing, with zero physical contact required. It creates a soul tie. Before you know it, you haven't just told a secret. You've secretly built a villa next to your primary relationship, leaving it starving for exclusive access. Ever felt that split-second adrenaline spike when your ringtone cuts through the quiet room and it's not your partner? That jolt is the dopamine trap blinding you to the reality of what's happening on your screen. We often dismiss this as harmless flirting, but under the hood it runs on the same engine that fuels slot machine addiction. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, and it is a devious loop you can't break. You send a risky reply or jokingly flirt through a private story poll, your heart hammering against your ribs like you're placing a... Then comes the agonizing silence or a vague, ha ha, that leaves you dangling. But when you finally get a playful response, your brain spikes with a chemical flood of pure reward, coating you in a warmth you crave. It's a tiny, jagged shot of dopamine that numbs the quiet reality of your relationship while you wait breathlessly for the next gamble to hit. You aren't actually connecting. You're chasing a chemical high that feels thrilling, but ultimately leaves you isolated, hooked on the hunt rather than the joy. You know that sinking feeling when you realize your partner is secretly hosting a double life that has absolutely nothing to do with physical cheating, yet often cuts deeper in your heart than a knife? We're talking about the Petty and Sarah crowd, the thousands of people who have embraced the digital double life, hiding behind encrypted handles and undisclosed email accounts to create this subtle shadow self. Psychologically, this is classic compartmentalization. It's your brain's evolutionary defense mechanism, keeping the unfaithful parts of you safely locked in a psychological vault so they don't disturb your real-world peace. Yet this digital safe harbor creates a sense of security that feels incredibly seductive, validating your ego with likes and private messages. It creates a toxic artificial ceiling, offering a low-risk dopamine hit, and the illusion of unlimited options while you sit right next to your partner. But here's the brutal truth. When you start separating your emotional needs into these secret accounts, you stop seeing your partner clearly. It's not just a secret chat anymore. It's a fractured reality that slowly erodes the trust necessary to keep a relationship alive and thriving. Let's face the hard truth. Exactly where does that digital line turn into a physical betrayal? Imagine the classic scenario. You catch your partner laughing at a late-night text from someone they used to know. When you confront them, they don't panic. They sigh, roll their eyes, and say, "You are so insecure, we are just friends." You spend the next hour defending your feelings, frantically looking for proof, while they retreat behind a wall of plausible deniability. This is the insidious gaslighting trap. They aren't trying to maliciously hurt you, but they are actively eroding your reality. Psychologically, this happens when people automate their desperate need for validation, mistaking the warm, fuzzy rush of a new flirtation for harmless ego maintenance. They view the interaction as a safe, low-stakes experiment in intimacy, often believing they have put a caution tape around their digital affections, rendering them immune to the friction of double lives. But make no mistake, walking that fine line is a high-stakes game. When the emotional intimacy you crave is slipped in like secret handshakes, true friendship stops being innocent and starts becoming a jagged, invisible affair. We all know that a dam holding back a massive flood doesn't just break all at once. It starts with groundwater seeping through, dripping drop by drop until the pressure finally gives way. That is exactly what micro-cheating looks like in the psychological landscape, and it is insidiously dangerous. When we normalize these gray area interactions, those late-night texts, the flirty banter disguised as deep friendship, we aren't just testing our boundaries, we are slowly grooming ourselves for a much darker outcome. Psychologically, this habitual seepage of intimacy creates a warped sense of reality. If a partner is engaging in these small betrayals over time, it begins to chip away at the safety of the relationship. You start to feel like a puzzle piece that doesn't fit anymore, watching their emotional spark brighten for someone else, while the intimacy at home withers. This erosion of self-worth empowers the betrayal, making the eventual affair feel less like a cliff edge and more like just climbing the stairs. It's a slippery slope where the brain starts justifying the impulse until the physical act inevitably follows. We can stop right here, before that dam breaks and the flood becomes impossible to stop. Trying to patch a relationship after a breach of digital trust feels like walking a tightrope over a chasm. One moment you are screaming, the next you are trying to calm down and ask for help. Instead of storming the castle, lean into the digital FAQ conversation. Psychological research tells us that transparency is the ultimate glue, so let's leverage that. The goal isn't to install a tracking device on your partner like a rogue siren. It's about establishing a healthy monitoring agreement that acts as a sturdy safety net, not a shackle. Sit down and draft your own FAQ. How late is too late to reply? What defines a safe text versus a flirtatious one? It's about turning vague anxiety into a concrete, approved language of expectations. By agreeing to these check-in protocols, you eliminate the mental fog that usually fuels resentment. This transforms your phone from a weapon of mass suspicion into a tool of radical vulnerability. It proves that you aren't trying to cage them, but rather to build a fortress around your partnership that keeps the world out but trust in. It's time to lock the door on insecurities and step back inside together.